Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Priyanka On Air, a podcast where we explore technology, AI, industry roles, and career opportunities through real conversations with people doing the work on the ground. Today's episode is the one I have been really looking forward to. I'm joined by Subhashish, a domain consultant for banking and payments with over 18 years of experience across the payments ecosystem. His journey spans roles such as payment domain consultant, technical project manager, product manager, and business analyst. He has deep experience in real time payments, faster payments platform, transaction processing, switching authorization, clearing and settlements, reconciliations, dispute management, fraud and risk management, and currently works with banks and financial institutions on payment modernization. What makes today's conversation even more relevant is his growing focus on artificial intelligence in banking and payments, and how AI can be applied practically, not just as a buzzword. Let's get started. Hey Shubhashis, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Priyanka On Air.
Thanks, Priyanka. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for that. Okay, so you have spent nearly 2 decades in the payment space, which is impressive in itself. What first drew you into the payments domain and what has kept you engaged for so long?
So, first, what drew me into the payments domain is the opportunity. Okay.
Right.
So, I somehow initially started my career in the telecom domain.
Uh-huh.
Then I got the opportunity to move on to the payments domain. But once I started working on the payments domain, it's huge. Practically speaking, payments is huge. From a common man perspective, it's just a transfer of money from one person to another or from a person to merchant. But if you see the scene behind the scene story, it's
Right.
huge.
Mm.
So the kind of technology you're using, the kind of business requirements which are there, the regulatory needs which are there, so it makes a very interesting domain to work on. So
Yeah.
that has actually kept me integrated to the payments domain. And also, if you see from last around 10 years, the evolution in payments is huge.
Right.
There is a lot of things that has happened on payments domain. A lot of things are still happening, and there's a huge scope on this domain.
Yeah. Yeah, that really comes through. Payment truly sits at the intersection of technology, business, and trust, right? So I can see how that constant evolution keep things interesting year after year, right? So thank you so
Yes.
much for that. You currently work closely with banks on payment modernization, right? When
Yes.
institutions say that they want modernize payments, what do they actually think it means? And what does it actually mean in practice?
Okay. So actually, when banks are telling that they want a modernized system,
Right,
they are majorly coming from the perspective of the customer. Okay.
right,
Because the banks has a set of customers, and they want to give new financial services to the customer,
right,
better user experience to the customer, which will add value, which will increase their revenue, bank's revenue, definitely. And also, more and more customer will keep adding on to their with their banks and their services.
right.
So, along with that, the second part that the banks want is the ease of operation. Because right now, if you see the payments with the current world situation of frauds, risk management,
Right,
regulatory needs. So banks really want that they have the operation easiness.
right,
So in order to make that operation easiness, also they want to modernize their payment
right,
space and payment architecture. This is the perspective of the banks. But
right,
when it actually comes to us behind the scenes, the modernization is not, it is for user experience, it is for operation easiness. But when we think from an architectural point of view,
right.
it's a massive change.
Yeah,
Because traditionally in legacy system, we had very coupled architecture where
right.
things has been developed year after year, and they are working in silos. It is
Mm,
not in coordination with each other. So
mm,
now when we see the entire payment architecture from a bird's eye view,
right,
it's very much coupled to each other. If you make change in one block, it affects almost each and every, say,
right.
5 or 10 blocks. So you have to make changes to those blocks as well.
Mm,
So it's, for us, it is more making system decoupled from each other,
right,
making payment as a service more easily acceptable. So
right,
whenever there's a new change, it can be incorporated as a service. It is not impacting all the payment layers.
Right.
Definitely, it will impact one or two modules, but it is not going to impact the entire architecture.
Yeah.
So, creating an architecture which is less coupled to each other,
Right.
facilitating availability, scalability, reliability.
Yeah.
So we designed that architecture from that perspective. So for banks, it is more from a user experience. For us, it is more from a futuristic architecture designing perspective.
Right. Right. I really like how you clarified the modernization. It isn't just about making things faster, right? But also about making system more resilient, scalable, and intelligent, right?
Yes,
Thank you
yes.
so much for that. From a customer's perspective, real-time payments feel effortless. But behind the scenes, where do systems struggle the most when it comes to scale and reliability?
That's a good question. So yes, from an end customer perspective, nowadays UPI payments have become very easy. It has
Right.
given them that flexibility to pay instantly to your merchants, to your recipients and people around you. But from a technology standpoint, the availability or the trust factor that you see is very critical over here. So when we say instant payment, so the
Right.
payment being secure,
Mm.
payment being transferred at instant rate, even if the payment fails, then the money is refunded back on time. So the entire life cycle, the entire process has
Mm.
to be streamlined and
Right.
has to be tracked very critically. Okay.
Yeah.
So the entire tracking of the from the payment initiation till the
Right.
authorization, your clearing, your settlement, your posting, reconciliation, everything has to be tracked. So if
Right.
there is any errors in between, it
Mm.
can be immediately addressed.
Yeah.
So from definitely from again from availability standpoint of view, every person would like to make sure that whenever he or she is making the payment, it is
Right.
fast, it is accurate, and it is doing whatever it is meant to do. So
Yeah.
transfer the funds from one party to another party. So doing that, we need to have an architecture, we need to have infrastructure. So the
Right.
architect design architecture give you that uh, feature and flexibility to use it in a simplistic way.
Yeah.
The infrastructure available for you 24 by 7. So
Right.
if we think from UPI standpoint, so now around 700 million transactions are happening per day. So we
Yeah.
need that kind of infrastructure to support it.
Right.
So availability of that infrastructure, if any component of that infrastructure goes down, so
Mm.
your payment is compromised, your
Yeah.
transfer of money is compromised.
Yeah.
So there we need to see a check and see that availability is not only from a software point of view, but
Right.
it is also from the hardware point of view.
Yeah.
Resiliency is not only a software feature. When we say resilient, it has to be a combination of software and hardware as well.
Right.
Because if your software is, say, 90-95% enough to handle
Yeah.
that, but if your hardware is not, then somewhere or some place or some border conditions, it will break.
Yeah.
Okay. So the
Right.
combination of these two is very important when we design or when we think instant payment system.
Right. That's actually such an important point. It's fascinating how much complexity exists just to make something feel instant, right? And seamless to the end user. So thank
And
you so
user.
much for that. Okay. So you have been researching and working more on AI in banking and payments. At what point did AI stop feeling optional and started feeling essential to you?
Okay. AI, if you see, it's currently the hot cake in the market.
Right.
Yes, everybody is speaking about AI and AI. But see, you need to understand how you can leverage AI
Right.
for business. So if I talk in my payments domain, how we can leverage AI.
Right.
So yes, it's a new area where everybody is doing various experiments.
Right.
But when we think from payment perspective, the
Hmm.
first thing that cannot be compromised is the trust.
Right.
You cannot compromise trust. So when we bring in something new like AI, we need to understand it has to be not breaking that seamless trust that
Yeah.
person have while paying making a payment.
Right.
So as we see now, it's a debatable topic, but still
Yeah.
people think AI is more replacing humans. But
Right.
if I look at it from my experience and my judgment perspective, I see it more as a assist kind of thing,
Yeah.
where you can use AI to assist you to reduce the efforts that has been used for a different operational purpose. So if I see from a payments perspective,
Mm.
starting off is the operational easiness, which I said,
Right.
because in payments, a huge load is there on the operation side. How
Mm.
well or how effectively the financial organization can handle their operations.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So use of AI in those operational segments where you can assist those operational guys with some more agents, with some more juice, with some more bandwidth to
Right.
do some uh, repetitive work in a less amount or less time.
Right. That's
Okay.
true.
So this is how I see AI
Mm.
initially getting into payments.
Yeah.
Definitely, there are more scope of AI in making payments more flexible and more, what I would say, easy from a global perspective.
Right.
Because now, as we move towards different rails, if you today, if you see, you still have check payments.
Right.
Okay, check payments are still there.
Yeah.
You have your NEFT, RTGS, IMPS payments.
Yeah.
Now, from last 10 years or so, you have your UPI payments, that is the
Right.
instant payments. If you move outside globally, you have SWIFT payments, you have
Right.
ACH payments, your wire payments. So there are multiples, and then you have card payments.
Yeah.
Okay, cards is another entire rail for you. So
Yeah.
you have so many rails. So whenever you are initiating a payment, then which rail to use? What is your
Right.
preference? Or whenever you are initiating any payment from, say, making a bill payment.
Right.
So whether that your bill is immediately due or it has a bandwidth, say, due date of say 10 days. So how you're going
Yeah.
to make that payment? Those kind of things are very important, and AI will be able to diagnose that very intelligently
Right.
and create that rail for you, or that the settlement route for you. So
Yeah.
that's very important.
Yeah. Actually, I really love how you frame AI as an assistant rather than a replacement, right? Thank you so much for the answer. Actually, I think a lot of people working in the payment industry can relate to it. So, fraud and risk management are critical areas in payments. How is AI changing the way institutions approach fraud detection and risk scoring today?
Yes. So this is another area where you can literally leverage AI and its
Right,
potential. So fraud has been something which is always there in payments.
right,
And with the growing technology, growing advancement, even the frauds are getting more and more into this payment system.
right,
And as I said, trust is the major critical factor in payments. So in order to withstand your trust, you have to minimize the frauds.
right,
So even if you have new technology evolving, new business needs coming onto the picture,
right,
AI, now fraud is not a post activity. It
mm,
has to be embedded within your payment flow. The
right,
fraud detection, the
mm,
risk management, it has to be embedded within that payment flow.
right,
So where AI will able to help you, because from the kind of frauds that are happening globally,
mm,
AI can leverage intelligence to detect those patterns much more easily and
right,
much faster.
yes,
So when it comes to a technology front or a business front or from human intelligence, definitely the human brain is the best.
yeah,
The
that's true.
decision factor
Yeah,
will be the best from a human brain, considering the situation, the priority, the severity. The decision of human will always remain best.
right,
But to facilitate that decision, you
yeah,
need certain data points. So creating that data points, creating
yeah,
that data for you based on which you can take that intelligent call,
right,
that data will be given by the AI, the reports, the analysis, the patterns, what kind of frauds are happening in the market.
yeah,
If there is so and so transaction that has happened in this fashion,
mm,
whether it is trendy to be a fraud or whether it is likely to be a fraud,
yeah,
how much risk code is there, how much risk is involved based on the amount, based on the rail, based
yeah,
on the recipient or the uh, beneficiary details. So
Right.
that intelligence is taken from AI side, and then it is feed in front of you, in front of a human.
Yeah.
He
Right.
will be in a better position to take the decision whether this is a fraud or not.
Yeah. Right.
So this is more, I see a combination of AI intelligence as well as human intelligence.
Yeah. Actually, I do agree with you on that, that human brain is the best. In perspective of AI, actually it clearly shows how AI can identify patterns that human is creating, right? In the form of frauds and risk, right? So that's another evolution is going to come in the market.
Yes, yes, definitely. It has already started and
Yeah.
it is going to grow. It's going
Yeah.
to grow in a huge fashion because the data you're getting from, I said, now UPI is having almost 7 million transactions per day.
Right.
January, I think it has struck around 21.7 or 8 billion transactions.
Right.
So that's huge. So
Yeah.
the kind of patterns that you can generate from those data is
Right.
immersive,
Yeah.
immense.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. So, with real time payments, decisions needs to be made instantly. How important is AI driven decision intelligence in the context?
I just mentioned you that whenever the payment is happening, it starts
Right.
from the initiation phase, then your authorization, and
Right.
then your validations and stuff like this. Then
Right.
it goes for clearing, settlement, and so once your payment gets initiated, now whenever you are initiated a payment, suppose you want to pay a medical bill
Right.
in a hospital,
Right.
that's your instant, immediate urgency.
Yes, true.
And if you want to pay, say, your electricity bill, which is due after 15 days,
Mm.
that's not your immediate urgency.
Right.
So AI will be able to differentiate between these two payments
Yeah.
and make the first one priority and
Mm.
your second one less priority. So
Mm.
if you think from a financial institution perspective, millions of payments are coming onto that. So
Yeah.
AI, if I make AI sit over there and
Right.
intelligently route the transaction based on priority of the transaction,
Mm.
this is one. And second is the based on preferences of the customer.
Right.
When I initiate a payment, I know that my bill payments are not immediately required. I can make my preferential idea that as on when system sees it is close to the due date
Yeah.
or on the due date, he can make the payment.
Yeah.
So based on customer preferences and based on the priority of payments, AI will be able to route the transaction
Yeah.
for the final settlement.
Right.
So you will be able to manage your entire system more efficiently, more
Right.
effectively.
Yeah.
So because whenever we say availability and scalability, you don't need to have a huge scalable system all day long.
Mm.
If you see from India perspective, whenever we have a big billion day sale,
Mm.
lot of transaction gets stuck
Right. Right.
because at that point of time the scalability is very important.
Yeah.
You may need to, the financial institution may need to scale up their system based on the load they are receiving at their end.
Yeah. Right.
So from availability and scalability perspective, as I said, in order to optimizely use your hardware and your software processes as well, AI will be very useful in
Yeah.
order to detect the priority of the transaction,
Yeah.
queue the transaction which are less prioritized, and first pass those transactions which are more of priority.
All right. Right. I think that's a great takeaway. AI isn't just about speed, it's about making better decisions at speed. Right.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for that. Reconciliation and dispute management are often operationally heavy and time consuming. Where do you see AI making the biggest difference here?
Huge.
Mm.
Because AI, I said, in operational, it is of huge advantage.
Right.
It will give that operational engineer that space and liberty to uh, attend to more number of requests
Right.
in lesser time.
Mm.
It will give him that data points based on which he can do that analysis quickly, efficiently. Reconciliation, having thousands and lakhs of transaction
Mm.
within minutes and seconds is more possible with the help of AI, because
Right.
they will be able to, based on certain business rule, based on the calculation which is already created, it will help to speed up those calculations,
Right.
speed up the process.
Mm.
Whatever errors or say disputes that are happening,
Yeah.
AI will be able to create the first level of verification or validation much more quickly. Because in today's world, whatever is happening, whenever a person raises a dispute, it goes through various systems in
Yeah.
order to detect whether it is initially a dispute or not. If
Yeah.
it is considered or it is found it is a dispute, then the process gets initiated for dispute management system.
Right.
So the basic check can be done with the help of AI. So
Yeah.
I didn't need to wait for that longer period of time to get my dispute resolved.
Right.
So definitely AI will provide a huge value in that.
Yeah.
And coming with the agentic AI stuff and other AI space, it is a huge
Right.
change.
Yeah. That's really insightful, reducing manual effort while improving the accuracy, right?
Would not say reducing the manual effort. Here when we say reducing the man, people often get confused that you are getting reduced the person. It is
Right.
actually for that same person, he will be able to do more work. It is not replacing him, it is actually increasing his productivity.
Hmm.
I can able to say solve 10 dispute in 4 hours. I will be able to solve 50 dispute in 4 hours.
Yeah. It means like, yeah, they can work more, they can
They can
resolve
work,
more
the
tickets.
productivity, the overall productivity will increase.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so there is still hesitation around trusting AI, especially in regulated environments. How do you balance innovation with explainability and control?
Yes. So again, it again revolves on the same thing of trust.
Right,
So every geographies have their own regulators. Okay.
right.
And payments strictly need to follow those
Mm,
regulatory areas and parts.
mm,
So when we are introducing AI, it has to be in consent with that regulatory needs.
right,
So if any decisions or any outcomes that are coming outside of AI block has to be regulatory compliant.
right.
So whatever decisions, whatever output the AI is generating has to be in compliance with those regulatory needs. So when we say regulatory needs, it's not only certain business rules, but also from a Data Protection Act, also
Mm,
from encryption part of it.
right.
So as you know, AI thrives on data.
Yes, true.
So the more data you give, the more
Mm,
effective results you will get. But
right.
even there are certain customer data, there are certain compliance data which you cannot share. So
Yeah,
that has to be followed. You cannot put all your customer centric data to AI and get those results.
yeah,
Okay. So you have to critically analyze that what kind of data you can pass on to AI,
yeah,
how well you can encrypt your what I would say the customer centric sensitive informations,
right.
and then you can leverage AI to create the business value for you.
Yeah, true. True. I really appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for that. A lot of our listeners are students and early career professionals. For
Mm.
someone just starting out, the payments ecosystem can be overwhelming, right? What's the best way for the freshers to enter this field?
Okay, yeah. So if a fresher is coming onto the payments field,
Right.
the first thing that he or she should do is understand the payment flow. It can be
Right.
any one flow.
Right.
The understanding of the payments, because when you see from a layman perspective or from a customer perspective,
Mm,
you are making a payment to somebody or to some
right.
merchant, and he is receiving the money. That's it.
Right. That's
But
it.
when from a technology side or business side you're seeing it, it has individual processes involved
Right.
in that, from initiation till the reconciliation or settlement part of it. So one has to understand that entire payment flow,
Yeah.
how the flow is happening from end to end perspective.
Yeah.
So once you get hold of that payment flow, you will be able to visualize that payment flow. You
Yeah.
will be able to add value, that what change can bring more effectiveness or more value add for the customer. What change in that payment flow?
Yeah.
Even if I say AI today, what factors that determines that payment flow?
Right.
What AI inclusion or AI assist can improve that payment flow?
Mm,
Okay, so that it will help. So whenever you are starting your career in payments domain, the
mm,
understanding of the payment domain The understanding of the payment flows is very important.
Yeah, I think that's really reassuring that you have to understand the flow first, right? And then
Yes.
you can just keep up the curiosity and consistency that you can improve your day to day experience or you can improve your learning. Okay,
Yes.
thank you so much for that. Okay, if a fresher wants to build a strong foundation in payment, what core skills or knowledge areas should they focus on first?
So learning the payment flows first. We often see we get entangled to that what tools we need, what certification we need in order to learn this. So more ahead of these tools and certifications, it is
Hmm.
important to learn the flows or how payment works.
Yeah,
Okay. Once you learn them, then you select a payment rail. It can be cards, it can be your instant payments, it can
right.
be your wired payments, it can be your cross border payments. But you should be very clear with the end to end payment flow of any particular one or two rails. Then
Mm-hmm.
you will be in a position to innovate on that, think on that, create value for that. Because payments is there. Payments was there generation ago also. Today
Right.
also the payment is there. If you see from outer perspective, it's a transfer of money between two parties. But how seamless now you have made the payments. If you
Mm.
think payments 20 years back and now if you see. So how seamless the payment has become.
Mm.
How important this various rails have come into picture like UPI, QR code based payments and all those stuffs. How effectively they have changed the customer perspective, the
Mm.
business perspective, the ease of use. So if you see mobile based payments, so now going forward the biometric based payments will come into picture.
True. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have got payments on our phones, now we have got payments on from our digital watch. So now we are getting close towards making payments from even the rings and stuff.
Mm.
So how securely you can make it, how seamlessly you can make it, and how quick easier you can make it for the customer.
Right. Yeah. I really like how you emphasized, understanding the transaction life cycle. Just knowing why things happen is just as important as knowing how, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. There's often confusion around whether freshers should focus more on technical skills or domain knowledge. How should they strike at the right balance?
It's a combination. Now again, it's an opportunity that when you start your career, majorly I would say you get a chance to work on a development project or a support project and you start your career. So where your technical skills or technology based learnings are more.
Mm.
Okay, you get involved in creating small code bases, small modules, and start with that. But people often forget that whatever they are developing,
Yeah.
that is not it. The knowledge has to be why they are developing, which you just said.
Yeah.
Why I'm developing this module for payments? What impact this feature which I'm developing? It may be of say 100 lines of code, but that is not it. What this 100 lines of code is making impact on the end-to-end picture of a payment flow, how this will traverse, what is the next
Mm.
process. So understanding that business, what is the requirement, why I am making this change. We say instant payment is a transfer of money immediately from one person to another, but that
Yeah.
is not it. Why do we, on the first place, why do we need instant payment? Even
True.
if the person gets money after say 10 minutes or 20 minutes, it's not a big deal.
Mm.
But the urgency of that, so when you see from a global perspective, initially the settlement happened 4 hours, 8 hours back. Now the settlement time has been reduced. So the
True.
person can recognize their money, can get their money instantly. So why is very important. Along with that, is it only transfer of money instantly? No. It is
Yeah.
also from a security perspective. Now we don't need to share our account number, IFSC code with the people.
Yeah.
We are putting it on mobile, we are mapping it with our account, and we are making from a mobile based payments.
Yes.
So the security of the account number, IFSC code is not a great factor, but security of the account number and things can be secure from a customer point of view. We don't need to memorize them. We don't need to share them with the beneficiary. So creating those business values, creating or understanding the business, understanding the domain is very important, or I would say equally important as technology. because technology will be evolving, technology will
True.
change,
Yeah.
new technology will come into the market. Business is what? Business is evolving with the customer needs,
True.
the requirements, the new requirements. So I will align, I should know my business, and I will see which technology fits my current business the most.
True. Yeah.
It is not only from the right fitment from, say, software perspective, it is
Mm.
from cost perspective, it is from ease of use perspective,
Yeah.
it is from the geography that you are using.
Yeah.
If you are making changes to your payment architecture, you're doing a payment modernization for a small country where your availability is important, your scalability is not that important.
Yeah.
Okay,
True.
then you will design a system for that. So you have to
Mm.
understand the business.
Mm.
You're designing for, say, India or China, where your scalability is very important.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
availability is important, but your scalability factor is also very important from the population that you're serving.
Yes.
So
True.
you will design your system for that.
Mm.
So effective usage of business and technology can give you a futuristic system for payments.
Yeah, that's a actually a very practical way to look at it. And I really love how you explained this for the freshers. Thank you so much for that. So, sure, with AI becoming such a big part of banking and payments, how can freshers start learning AI concepts without feeling intimidated?
It's become a trend. Everybody's learning AI. It's good. You are getting to know what AI is,
Hmm.
but then you have to understand the context of using it.
Right.
Context is very important factor here. You can learn AI. AI is not only for payments. AI is not only for medical. AI is not only for a specific domain. AI
Yes.
is
True.
for everyone.
Hmm.
You learn AI, you know what AI is, what AI can do. You can see certain use cases. You can see how Gemini is changing things, how huge documentation can be read and give you that summary within seconds. So
Hmm.
it becomes a context, the need for which you're using that AI.
Yeah.
Today, if I have, say, 1,000 documents and I need to get a gist or summary of that within, say, minutes, I'm
Yeah.
using that Gemini AI or Gemini tool or any other AI for that to get that answers within
Yeah.
seconds. In payments, I need to understand where I can use AI, how
Yeah.
I can use AI in context to your regulatory needs. I'm not compromising that. In context to your availability, scalability, and all form factors.
Right.
In context to your safe, reliable, and secure payments. I
Hmm.
cannot compromise on that.
True.
Using them, how I can use AI to benefit these parameters.
True. Yeah. I think that's really great advice. Thank you so much for that, Shubhashish. What are some common mistakes you have seen freshers make when entering this field and how they can avoid them?
Good question.
Yeah.
This often, even I think, even at some point of time, I have also made the same mistake. I would say when we get inside this payments or any other area for that sake,
Mm.
we see the roles that we have been offered. We see the titles that we are working for.
True.
Okay, we don't see the knowledge behind it. What I would say, the need behind it. So if I come on to the payments, so it's not important whether you're a developer, whether you're a tester, whether you're a business analyst, or you're a product owner.
Mm.
The more important is the knowledge behind it,
True.
because once you start getting that knowledge, then it's up to you that whether you want to stay on the design part of it, create that architecture, stay on the technical side of it, whether you love the business and you want to get a business flavor of it, create some new innovative ideas and get onto the domain side or business side, whether you think completely out of the box and
Yeah.
want to create something from a product perspective that will help the financial institution. So
Yeah.
the mindset is important. To create that mindset, you have to gain that knowledge. So
Yeah.
initially people think that, okay, I'm a developer, I need to develop this, that is my role.
Yeah.
So they are more concentrated on the role stuff, they are
Mm.
more concentrated on the title stuff. This is my title, this is what I should be doing, but I'm not doing that piece of work. But behind the lines, it should be the knowledge that at the end of, say, a tenure of 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I have gained this knowledge,
True.
which will be consistent, which is evolving, and I will be able to participate in that evolution.
Yeah. True. That's such an important reminder. Gathering knowledge, our understanding really do pay off in the long run, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Shubhashish. Okay, if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of career advice, what would it be?
Getting more in-depth knowledge on the initial days
Okay.
rather than thinking on a very specific part of what I'm developing, or not asking too many questions.
Yeah.
So asking questions is very important. Maybe at times you don't ask much questions and you only do what you're asked to do, or what the project or system wants. But
Yeah.
asking questions is very important. That why I'm doing this, can I do it in a better way?
True.
What is the impact of this change on an overall system? So
Yeah.
that will help you to give that extra pace to whatever you're doing, and clarity, and definitely some innovative ideas come out from that.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful advice because I'm sure many listeners will relate to that. Okay. Now it's time for a quick rapid fire round. Quick answers, no overthinking. Okay.
Okay.
So whenever you are ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. One must learn skill for freshers entering payments.
Current instant payment way.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. AI threat or opportunity for early careers.
Great opportunity.
Okay, thank you. That's encouraging to hear. One habit that accelerates career growth.
Asking questions why.
Simple but extremely effective, I think. Okay, payments domain in one word.
Trust.
Trust. Perfect way to sum it up. Subhashish, thank you so much for this conversation. I really appreciate how you shared not just your experience, but also such practical guidance, especially for freshers and early career professionals. What stands out for me is how the payment space rewards curiosity, patience, and continuous learning.
Thank you so much, Priyanka.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And actually, like how the AI becomes the part of everyday banking operation. Thank you for explaining how we are bringing AI into the payments. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I hope it will help the viewers and the freshers as well, who are trying to get inside this payment domain and build a career for themselves.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shubhashish. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
To everyone listening, whether you are a student, working professional, or simply curious about banking and payments, I hope this episode gave you clarity and inspiration. Thank you for tuning in to Priyanka On Air. Please do like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until the next time, this is Priyanka signing off. Thank you so much.